Good morning, everyone. So welcome to the class. You have come to the class of Business Correspondence and Reporting. My name is Prachi Garg, and I will be taking your chapter 2. I hope that these classes are being beneficial for you and you're taking the most out of it, because I think these classes are for you and to give you benefits while staying at home. And, the institute is trying to give you all sorts of facility and help to prepare for your exams. I see so many of you have joined. I'm so happy to see. Okay, so this chapter, you've already started this chapter and you've already done with the communication chapter. And now a little bit of background, and then I would be talking about the rules of the class. Why we are studying about business correspondence and reporting, right? Why do you think it is essential? We all have come here and we all want to be CA. And why are we studying about business correspondence and reporting? Why? I would like to hear from you. Why do you think we are even studying the subject and preparing you guys in business English? You have to tell me your thoughts. How do you think the subject is going to benefit you? Okay, I ask a lot of questions, which are very good to enhance your communication skills. Something that would benefit you professionally as well as personally. Having a skill of good communication is very important these days. No matter what you do in life, you need all of this, right? And it's sooner you start, the better it is. Because later in life, when you become CA, you start working, you guys won't have time to work over your writing skills, your grammar, your English, how to write the email, how to write the articles. No, right? So the basics has to be start from today. If you have strong basics, very good. If you do not, then please take the subject very seriously. For presenting ourselves, well, of course, because communication skills tells a lot about us, right? That is the first thing. You can impress somebody, or you can just put somebody off with your bad communication skills, and you can impress somebody, and you can just achieve whatever you want. Because improve our image, we need to believe in our words. We need to believe in our words. I don't get it. Because how to deal with business in proper language and manner, of course. English being the global language, English is one language that connects us from the world. So it's very important to know at least this language. And these days, people are learning different languages also as per their professional demands, whatever their work demands and whatever their profession demands for. But at least English is the basic that you need to start with. And you should know this language, because that is going to connect you. And why we're talking even about the abroad, even within the country, English is the only language that connects all of us. So this one example I always give in my every lecture, every time I'm teaching this subject, that within the country, we don't know all the regional languages. We have so many states in the country. It is impossible to know all the languages, right? So, for example, you are going to towards the south in India, and you don't know their regional language. They don't know Hindi. So, which is the common language? How do we do the business together, right? Which language binds us together? Which language will help us to communicate with each other? Discuss business. English, right? So, forget about the global thing, and countries beyond our boundaries. Within the country also, this is the only language that connects all of us. And this is why there was a debate of considering that English should become like our national language / official. And it is official language, right? Even in courts and everything, English is the mandatory language. I'm talking about the high courts here. For communicating in offices, for expressing our ideas and thoughts, yes. Because in future, we all will be doing. Yes, grammatical mistakes is something that people don't like. Okay, especially people who are very proficient with the language. And of course, if you do not use your language correctly, your grammar or its sentence structures correctly, you might, convey a wrong message, right? And vice versa. If somebody has sent you something, and if you do not have a proper knowledge of grammar in the language, you might misinterpret the message into something else, right? And you won't get the exact meaning of what the other person is trying to say to you, and this is where the meaning is lost, and your business will suffer. Meghna, Hindi is common language, but not in every state. We don't speak Hindi everywhere. Not every language is. Ashish, I cannot suggest you any articles because articles are published every day and in large number. I think you can pick up good magazines, English magazines, newspapers. There's so many online platforms these days. Probably I'll share the list with you in the next class, and you can just go through it and read. Just read anything. Okay, pick anything and start reading. I would say anything that interests you. There's no hard and fast rule that, oh, you have to read the newspapers. Right. So now let's talk about this language that we're talking here. Just a second. Now we have spoken enough about the communication skills, right? Now, for having a good communication, what do we need? To have a good grammatical knowledge is very mandatory for any language because that is the base, that is the ground rules for it. Okay, so now this chapter is all about grammar, the grammatical concepts, because that is very important for the rest of the chapters that you will be doing after this. For having a good writing skills, of course, you need to know how the sentence structures are framed, what kind of sentence structures we use, and to make a good sentence structure, what all components go into it, and how it goes, right? So let me just share the PPT. Okay. One second. I was just opening the study material. Sindhu, okay, now, sorry, I'm so sorry. I was supposed to give you some ground rules for my class. One is, please stick to the questions, okay? Stick to the questions regarding whatever the topic is being taught. Do not ask me anything that is beyond the context, and do not ask me something that I've not even started, okay? You can ask me any questions related to whatever I'm teaching. I am okay answering that. But do not ask me questions which I am not about not. Like, for example, about this paper 4. I have no idea about paper 4. So you can actually ask the authorities, and you can actually email to the concerned person in the institute, and they will be able to help you with it. Okay. So, Mohammed, it's everything is from your book. Everything is from your study material itself. There is nothing from the outside. If you think that you guys would need the PPT, I'll upload it. But I don't think that is required anyway. Okay, now let's talk about few concepts that you should know when it comes to language skills. These questions won't be asked in your study, in your exams, but I think you should, it's good for your knowledge. Now, whenever we are discussing the language, now there are so many branches, just the way we have so many concepts for just the way we have so many concepts for any other subject. Even in English, we have there are branch of studies, okay, that people actually study about, and they do their research. Now, for example, is linguistics. Now, what is linguistics? That is the study of language and its structures. And there is a whole course on linguistics, and there's so many universities that offer. And therein people actually study about the language. The language is vast. Now, language has not come in one day. It is the never ending process. It is always evolving, right? No, so the people who study linguistics, they actually study about how language has evolved and how it started, and how people are how it is growing day by day, right? Then comes the grammar, which we are going to basically study in this class, in the rest of the 3 classes as well. Study of how the language is constructed, right? What are the components? What are the rules that we need to follow? Because without grammar, no language can exist, right? Even if you are studying Hindi, Sanskrit, any regional language, grammar is basically the base of anything, right? That tells you the rules of how you use the verb, how you will use the nouns, how will you use the prepositions, how will you use the tenses. Then comes the syntax. Now, syntax is a study of arrangement of words, right? Basically, the word order. These are different studies that people do. Okay, so they basically study about how the words are arranged. Morphology. Morphology is basically the study of internal construction of words. Now, internally, how this word came into being, right? What is the meaning of prefix? What is the meaning of suffix? And how the words come together and then make a separate meaning. Okay. Semantics. Semantics is a study of meanings. Okay. It basically tells you about that, you basically, when, the few words that has different meanings, okay? There are few words that has different meanings, right? So it studies about it, how this word got the meaning to whatever it is, right? Phonology is the study of speech and sound, which is again so important. That sets the base of any language, right? You have to study the speech and sound, how the word sounds, and how when different letters come together, how they sound differently. So that is the phonology. Pragmatics is the study of the use of natural language and communication. Now, before going to school or before going to any formal setups, we all of us, we kind of start speaking at least one language that we learn naturally. Okay, so pragmatics is all about that, right? We of course learn languages now. Be it be English, be it be Hindi, be it be any language. There is one language that we just learn naturally by listening to everyone, right? This is how kids learn to speak because they are listening to so many people around them. They start catching the words, they start understanding the meanings. Nobody's teaching them that this word means this and this is how you have to use it, right? They just start picking up from the environment around them and from the people around them. Are we clear? Any problems so far? Now, this is just for your knowledge. This no question would be asked from this topic, right? This is just to give you a base that what language is about. There's so many things go to form a language, right? And this started years and years and centuries ago. Actually, I would say not years, but centuries ago. And till date, we keep adding new words. We keep and we keep picking up words from the other languages also, and we start putting them in our own dictionary, right? Okay, but that is a vocabulary part that we will do in the after we are done with the chapter 2. So let's understand now about the sorry, it is here. Now, this is a very important topic. This is not in your book, I know, but and there would be so many of you who are already aware about these words and who are already aware about what it means. But I'm sure there are few students who might not be clear with what noun is, what verb is, what adverb is. Now, I'm going to just take you through all the parts of speech briefly because I will be using the words a lot when I'm explaining the different concepts. So I would just like to run you through these concepts so that it's clear in your mind. Now, what is a verb? Now, in a basic language, we call it a verb is basically action word, right? Any word that explains you about the action is called the verb, right? Jump, run, read, drink, eat. Any action, any word that is used to explain about the action, we call it a verb, right? Or at the state of being, just like is, was, are. Now, these are also called helping verbs because they basically help the main verb in a sentence. Then comes the noun. Noun is a naming word, right? Name of anything, idea, or any person, place. This is a noun. Noun is a naming word. Rock, dog, John, democracy, birthday, gravity. These words are called noun. Okay. Either they are explaining, either they're the name of a thing, name of a person, right? What an animal is called, or it is talking about any concept, it is talking about any idea. So all of these are the nouns because they are basically naming or defining something. Adverb. Now, adverb tells us about how an action occurred, right? This basically modifies the verb. This basically enhances the verb, right? Explains a little bit more about the verb, like quickly, slowly, carefully, loudly, right? So such words because they are laughing loudly, right? So laughing is of course the verb here. Loudly is that it tells us about that how an action occurred and with what intensity, right? Clear? Are we clear till here? Okay. Now, next is the adjective. Now, adjectives are the words that tells you about the noun, that explains something about the noun, uh, just enhances or modifies the noun. And so, like big, red, Freds, these are all adjectives because it is telling you about the, you use it adjective before the noun to explain about the noun, right? Big, uh, big ball, red apple, right? So these are adjectives. Beautiful dress, happy baby. Pronoun. Now, pronouns are the words that are used in place of nouns. They basically replace the noun in any sentence to avoid the repetition. We cannot keep taking the name again and again in a conversation or while we are writing. So we replace them with a few words which are called pronouns. It, I, them, he, she, we. All of these are pronouns. Okay, now let's talk about the conjunctions. Conjunctions are basically, no, prepositions. Prepositions are describing the relationship. Now, this builds the relationship of words within the sentence, right? It often tells us about two nouns and their relationship, right? For example, the cat is on the table, right? So there are two nouns in a sentence, which is cat and the table. They both are noun. Now, what is the relation between them within the sentence? That is on. So the cat is sitting on the table, right? Uh, I am sitting beside him, right? So where am I sitting? What is the relationship between I and him? That is beside. Conjunctions. Conjunctions are the joining words. And, but, or. These are all because. These are all the conjunctions. Interjections are the word of surprise. When you're surprised with something, when you're overwhelmed with something. Wow. Oh my. So whenever you're explaining about something. All right. So should we move ahead now? Okay, now this was about the past of speech. Now let's talk about the sentence structures. So we start with that. What are the three components of sentences? One is a phrase, the other is a clause, then there is a sentence. When everything comes together, it becomes a sentence. Now, what is the difference between the phrase and the clause? Phrase and clause, both are group of words. Okay, the commonality is that both are group of words. The difference is a phrase is a group of words which does not make sense. Which does not make sense on its own, okay, and does not contain a verb. This because when a verb is included in the group of words, basically it starts to make sense. But when they're just words which does not have any, who is doing what, and of course there's no action in it, then it is called a phrase. A clause is a group of words which contain a subject and a verb. A clause is a group of words which contain a subject and a verb. Now, what is a subject? Now, subject is the basically the main part of a sentence, that who did this action, about whom are we talking, right? For example, now look at the examples given here. A famous designer. Now, who is a famous designer? We don't know. A famous designer. Does it make sense to you? What are we talking about? The famous designer? What is the famous designer doing? We have no idea, right? So a famous designer is just a group of words which does not make sense on its own, and does not even contain a verb, because there's nothing that we know about the designer. Okay, can you come up with examples of phrases? If you understand what phrases, come on, quickly give me one example each. In a garden. He is liar is a sentence. It's a complete sentence. No, that's a beautiful teacher. Yes. A famous food joint. A good firm. Give me at 10 o'clock. These are all phrases because they do not make sense. Okay. Now let's talk about clauses. Now, clauses are a group of words which contain a subject and the verb. Right. Now we know who's doing the action and what they are doing. That is a clause. Right. Radhika is a famous designer. She's playing in the park. Billy is a foolish cat. Harry is Potter is an interesting book. These are all clauses. Okay. In the box, in the hotel, add to the city, a mad dog, a beautiful, perfect. You've got what Fatima and try to explain in Hindi, but unfortunately, uh, it's very difficult to explain these things in Hindi, but I'll try. Okay. Now, Kazi, it's okay. You've not missed too much, so I'm sure you'll be able to catch up. Okay, quickly give me examples of clause. Good, Harsh. Good, Shruti. Very good. Okay, good job. So you've understood what phrases and what are clauses. So that's the only difference between both. Hang on. Now, there are two types of clauses. Now, let's discuss that. Clause has two types, which is main clause and the subordinate or a dependent clause. Now, one clause is a clause that has a complete meaning in itself and does not require anything else to complete the meaning. It can just stand alone and nothing is required, and we don't need to add on anything to those clauses. Okay, Richard ate 5 ice creams. Now, this is a complete sentence. There's nothing missing in it. We don't need to add anything in it, right? Then comes the subordinate or a dependent clause. The subordinate and dependent clause also has a subject, also has a predicate, but does not make complete sense on its own. It somewhere something is lost and it does not complete the complete meaning. It is dependent on the main clause. It mostly starts with subordinate conjunctions, which is after, because, if, since, when. Now, if you look at the example, sure it's looking too small for you. Now, Richard ate 5 ice creams because he was hungry. Now, this is a complete sentence which has two clauses. One clause is a main clause, which is Richard ate 5 ice creams. This in itself is a complete sentence. But because he was hungry, now because he was hungry, we know something. We know we're talking about something, but it is not complete. It needs more group of words, or it needs a main clause to complete its meaning, right? So Richard, now because he was hungry, cannot stand alone. It is making sense, but it is not making complete sense, right? So you need a main clause, you attach both the things, and then it becomes the complete sentence. Are we clear till here? Okay, if I give you an exercise to choose between what is a phrase and what is a clause, can you choose? Oh, yeah. Dependent clause can come in the beginning, it can come towards the end of a sentence. There is no hard and fast rule that it will come towards the end. Okay, so I have a very interesting exercise for you. What you have to do is, I'm going to share some sentences with you, and I've underlined few words in each sentence. You have to tell me if the underlined words are phrases or clauses. Shall we start? Oh, dependent clause and independent clause. Sorry. Okay, quickly tell me which is the independent clause and which is the dependent clause. Take 2 minutes more and then answer. Okay. So after we finish assignment, Mrs. Sharma makes wonderful dishes. Now, does this make sense to you? The entire sentence? Does this whole sentence make any sense to you? Okay. This entire is the dependent clauses because it does not make the complete sense. It might have few things left and it might need something to complete the meaning. I went to see him. This is definitely the independent clause because it can exist on its own and it is complete in its meaning. Next comes the while we were driving. Now, while we were driving is basically a dependent clause because it starts from while. That means something else needs to, something is left to be said, and we need to explain it a little bit more because of the word while. It is using the subordinate conjunctions. Fourth, since we went there yesterday, the same problem. Uh, of course, this group of words is making sense. Now, if you observe in the point 3 and 4, both has a subject, both has the verb. We know who is doing what, right? In 3 and 4, but the meaning is not complete. So these both are the dependent clauses, and especially it is starting from while and since. Are we clear? Now, I took the main road, which was repaired yesterday. I took the main road, which was repaired yesterday. Now, if you see in this, I took the main road is the independent clause, and which was repaired yesterday is a dependent clause. Together, it makes a complete sentence, right? It has both independent and dependent clause. I took the main road is the independent clause because you actually have to check that if this is a complete in its meaning and can stand alone or not. The kid who was peeping in the window has left this letter. Now, the kid who was peeping in the window, the who was peeping in the window is the dependent clause, of course, because this cannot stand alone. Together, of course, it is making complete sense. She enjoys dancing in the rain, independent clause, and a complete sentence. The novel which was on the desk is brilliantly written, which was on the desk. This is a dependent clause in the middle. Since the play was fascinating, dependent. Again, it starts from since. If we came back on time, again, dependent clause. Now, all of these words, if you look at the 9 and the 10, they need something else to complete the meaning. They need another main clause to complete the meaning, right? And without this, they cannot exist. Okay. Okay, this was about phrases and clauses. Now we will be discussing, just give me a second. Are we clear till here? Any problem? I by mistake, put off your query box. I'm just opening that again. And now we will be discussing about the more components about the sentence structures, which is like subject, predicate, object, direct and indirect object. So I'll be very quick with that because I don't want to get into details. Reason being, that is just for your understanding. You don't get questions from such topics. It's just for your understanding. So we'll be a bit quick with that topic. But in case you don't understand, just tell me to stop. Okay, look here now. I want to just show your study material right here so that, we cover topic by topic. I don't want to miss anything. Oh yes, in the last exercise, how many of you got all correct? How many of you got 9 correct, 8 correct? Just tell me that. Seven correct. All correct, very good. 9 clear, 8 correct. That's okay, Shruti, even if 2 are wrong. Just trying to share the screen. And okay. Okay, so now there are several types of phrases that we can see here. One is a prepositional phrase. Now, what is a prepositional phrase? A prepositional phrase is a phrase that has a group of words that begins with a preposition as in generally followed by a noun or a pronoun or anything that acts as a noun. Okay, she gave the book to him. Now, to him is a prepositional phrase. Any word or any noun or pronoun that starts with preposition becomes a prepositional phrase. Now, as you know, the phrases cannot stand alone, so even this cannot. She gave book to him. Okay. My car is stuck in the pothole. In the pothole is basically a prepositional phrase because there's a noun and then there's a preposition. My mother prepares food for the entire family. For the entire family starts from the preposition, ends with a noun. Clear? Now, prepositional phrases are usually used as adjectives or adverbs. If the phrase is used as an adjective, it comes after the noun or pronoun it is described. The beautiful fountain is part of the shopping complex. Now, it is used as an adjective. It is used to, add on to the sentence, right? So the beautiful fountain is a part of the shopping complex. Now, of is a preposition, complex is the noun and the object of the preposition. The phrase describes the word part. Are we clear? Yes. Now, the sentence could have started from the beautiful fountain is part. Now, part of what? Of the shopping complex. In preposition phrase, objective case of a pronoun is used me, her, him, as though. You is same in the subjective and objective case. Now, because it is using after the preposition, so we use pronouns in the objective case, which is me, her, him, us, them. Am I clear? Yes. Now let's come to the noun phrase. Now, noun phrase is basically a phrase that does function of a noun. Okay, it acts like a noun. Noun phrases are composed of a noun and its modifier. They are used as subjects, objects, or complements. Right? Now, for example, the strange creaking sound scared the inmates of the house. Right? All the examples, everything is really self-explanatory in the uh, study material. I would recommend you that you go through your study material thoroughly and then practice few more questions and you're ready for the exams. Right? The noun phrase as subject, the strange creaking sounds. Now, strange and creaking, they're two words, okay? And they're being used for sounds. That becomes a noun phrase. Sarita eats a lot of food at lunch. Now, this acts as an object. So now what is object and what is subject? Subject is about whom we are talking, who is the main thing about the sentence, right? Now, object is basically upon whom the action is being taken place, right? On whom the subject is doing the action, or on what we are getting the effect of the subject, which is Sarita eats a lot of food at lunch. What does Sarita do? She eats a lot of lunch. Now, Sarita's the subject here. Eats is a verb here, of course. A lot of food at lunch is the object. The beach is a great place for picnic. Now, a great place for a picnic. This is again a noun phrase because it is explaining us about the noun. Next comes the verb phrase. Now, verb phrase is very easy. It is just the combination of main verb and helping verbs linked together. Has eaten, was eating, has already eaten, must have been eating. All the words that are associated with verbs become the verb phrase. Clear? Any doubt still here? Should be pretty easy. Don't confuse yourself, and you just have to understand what is noun, what is verb, and what is adjective, and what is the preposition. Next comes the adjective. Now, of course, as the word adjective phrase explains, it just acts as the adjective and intensifier. Mary is slow and steady. The dazzlingly beautiful woman walked down the streets. So dazzlingly beautiful. Now there is one main adjective which is beautiful. Dazzlingly beautiful. Dazzlingly is basically intensifier. It is explaining even more, or elaborating on the word beautiful more. Right? So they together become the adjective phrase. Just like the words that are associated with verbs, they become verb phrase. Similarly, when there are two adjectives or two, adverb plus adjective is used, that becomes the adjective phrase. Are we clear? Please ask if there is any problem. Okay, so clauses we have already discussed. Now let's just understand about the noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. Similarly, the way we have clauses and different clauses and phrases, we have clauses too. Now, in types of dependent clauses, which is a noun clause. Now, noun clause is the dependent clause that functions like a noun. Similarly, when we have these noun phrases, they also act like a noun. This also acts like a noun. That it will rain seems likely. Now, that it will rain, this serves as a subject of the sentence because we are discussing the noun. Okay, so noun clause is basically a dependent clause. It cannot survive alone. But then at the end of the day, we are talking about that noun clause, right? That is the subject of the sentence. So that becomes the noun clause because it is a dependent clause, right? It is not a phrase. That it will rain. This has verb. Now, what is the difference between noun phrase and the noun clause? Phrases will never have verbs, but noun clause be it be adjective clause, be it be adverb clause. These ones will have the verb, right? It will make sense, but it will not make complete sense. Are we clear? Any problem so far? That is a basic difference that you need to understand about the phrases and the clauses. Okay, so this is the difference between clause and the phrase. Don't confuse that what is a noun clause and what is the noun phrase. Both act as a noun. The only difference is it makes sense but not the complete sense. Okay, the subordinate clause that it will ring. Now, adjective clause is basically a dependent clause that functions as an adjective. Adjective modifies or describes a noun. In this sentence, the star performer at the concert chose dresses which would look good on her. Which would look good on her. Now, this is an adjective clause here because this is explaining about the dress. It is describing about the dress. It is describing about a noun. Now, if you look at the clause, which would look good on her, this has a verb in it, right? Adverb clause. Adverb clause is basically a dependent clause that functions like an adverb. An adverb modifies or describes a verb. Now, this one, when the food arrived, the children ate everything. Are we clear? So, when the food arrived, now this is basically telling us about the verb here, right? More about the verb. So, this becomes the adverb clause. And this one again, if you see, this has also has a verb. In the phrases, we do not have the verbs. In clauses, we have the verb, but it does not make the complete sense. It cannot stand alone. Right. So are we clear till here? Any problem so far? Okay, now I'm going to take a 5 minutes break. I will be back at 12 and then we will take it further. Okay, so you also have a break, go have water, think about all the topics that we have discussed. In case you feel there's something that you need to ask me again, please ask me after the break that, ma'am, I've not understood this and explain it again. Okay, 5 minutes break. We'll be back at 12. Yeah. So this was about the phrases and clauses. I'm just going to go through your queries in case you have any problem. No, noun phrase is not like a clause. Okay. So, no, you have to understand that there is a difference between a noun phrase and a noun clause. Now, noun phrase is just a group of words that acts as a noun, but it does not have any subject, it does not have any verb, right? Just as the meaning of the phrase, right? But in the clause, noun clause, it also acts as a noun. But here it has a subject, it has a verb, but it does not make a complete sense. It is a dependent clause, right? So this is the difference between these clauses and phrases. Now, it's a very confusing topic. So I suggest you that you take out exercises from the internet and practice it a bit, right? And still, if you do not understand, then ask me in the next class because it is anyway a very confusing topic, right? You will keep getting confused if you keep doing it again and again, right? But with the practice, you will have a clarity. Are we clear? Yes, please, Trisha. I can explain. Just let me share my PPT once. One second, let me just share again the study material with you. Okay. So adverb clause is basically again a dependent clause that functions like an adverb, right? And it basically modifies or describes a verb. Now, these clauses also act the way their headings are supposed to act in a sentence. Like, for example, noun clause acts like noun, adjective clause acts like adjective, adverb clause acts like adverb. Now, what is the basic function of adverb? Now, adverb is to basically modify or describe a verb or an adjective or any other verb, adverb, right? So when the food arrived, the children ate everything. We are talking about the food when the food arrived, right? We are talking about, and it is explaining us about the verb here, right? The subordinate clauses when the food arrived function as an adverb to modify ate, right? It is telling us about the verb or the action that happened when the food arrived, right? If you see an adjective clause, we are describing about the dress here, right? It is telling us about the noun here. And the noun clause, rain in itself is a noun, right? So we're talking about that dependent clause only in that sentence. Are we clear? The only thing that you need to know is in the clauses there are verbs mentioned. Clear? Okay, now let's come on to the sentence, which is the main part of it. The phrases and clauses are basically part of a sentence. Sentence is also a group of words that makes complete sense to the reader. It expresses the complete thought. There is nothing missing. Everything is together, right? Now, it typically contains a subject and a predicate, right? Now, what is subject and the predicate? I'm sure you have done that in your class 3 and 4. This topic starts from grade 3 and 4 in schools. Subject and predicate, the two parts of the sentences. It begins with a capital letter, ends with a full stop, right? If you look at the word sentence in the bold, a sentence is a group of words that make complete sense to a reader. Look at this one sentence. This is starting with a capital letter. This is ending with a Full stop. So if there is no full stop, you might have a question mark, you might have exclamation mark, but you need a punctuation to close a sentence, to end a sentence. A finite verb is an essential component of a sentence. Now, verb is an essential part of any sentence, because if you do not know what action is being taken place, then what are we talking about here? Right? Now, a sentence can be short or it brief. A sentence can be anything that you want, right? It can be very lengthy. It can be just two or three words at least, even two words. But it can be as long as you want it to be. Okay, now let's talk about the basic part of the sentences. Let's take it very quickly. I'm not going to explain you everything too much. I'm assuming that half of you at least know about it. Now, subject in a sentence about which something is stated, right? I am talking. Now, what is the subject in the sentence? About whom are we talking here? When I say I am talking or I am teaching, right? So what is the subject in the sentence? Can you tell me about what we are talking? Oh, sorry. Tell me. We're talking about what and whom? I, right? So I is a subject here. I'm teaching is a predicate here. Tells us something about the subject. Am I clear? Yes. If I say, Ria is not feeling well, right? Ria is not feeling well. Now tell me which is the subject and which is the predicate in the sentence. Ria is not feeling well. So the subject will be? No, Kushi. Teaching and talking is not the subject. This is the part of the predicate and it's a verb. Ria is not feeling well. Ria is the subject. Perfect. Now the predicate is, rest will be predicate. Perfect. Perfect. So now you've understood what subject and predicate is. Okay. Now in a sentence, let's talk about direct object and an indirect object. Right? There are some objects about which we talk directly and about on which the verb is taking the action directly. And on one, it is the indirect. Am I clear? Okay. Again, be very attentive for this. Okay, it's a very confusing topic. Okay. If I say Max threw the ball, Max threw the ball. Now, Max is subject here, threw the ball is a predicate here. Now, what is the verb here? Max threw the ball. Through is the verb, right? So Max threw. Now through what? On what? On whom? With basically on which object the action is being taken place directly. Through what? The ball. Now ball is the direct object here because the ball is the receiver of the verb, right? Directly. Am I clear? It's through, Nikita. Through. Max threw the ball is the, so ball here is the direct object. Now let's talk about the indirect object. Now indirect object is basically okay. Now indirect object is basically who or what is receiving the direct object. Now who is receiving the direct object? Forget about the verb here, right? Now who's getting it? Now for example, if I say Max pass the ball to Ria. Max passed the ball to Ria. Who got the ball? For whom did the ball given? It was Ria. So Ria is the indirect object here, right? It can be person or it can be thing that the action is done to or for. Am I clear? Yes. So basically, in a sentence, you're supposed to ask the questions like who or what is receiving the direct object, right? And these direct objects can be placed after the verb and before the direct object. Right? They usually come between the verb and the direct object. Right? Now, for example, look at this sentence. I loaned I loaned him some money. I loaned him some money. So who's subject here? I. What did I do? I loaned. What did I loan? Some money. So some money is a direct object or because the word loan is used for some money. But to whom is this loan given? It is given to him. So him is the indirect object. Are we clear? Yes. Any problem so far that you have? Okay, the next is the object of preposition. Now, what is object of preposition? The noun, the noun or pronoun that completes its meaning. Okay. Okay, so object of preposition is basically the noun or the pronoun that completes its meaning. Now, what does that mean? I gave the book to her, right? I gave, what did I give? Book, right? To him. Now, to and him, the word that comes after the preposition becomes the object of preposition, right? Verb, you all know, action. Phrases, you've understood. Complements, the word or group of words that completes the meaning. So the words that are used extra to complete the meaning are called complements. All right. So are we clear about the basic parts of the sentence? Any problems? Okay, let's quickly do this exercise and then we'll proceed further. Okay. She sent her friend an email. Now, what is the subject here? What is the verb here? What is the direct object and what is the indirect object? Quickly. We won't do all the examples, we'll just do one or two. Yes, so she is the subject, her friend is the indirect object, and email is the it's the direct object. All right, next. Sally will help you with your housework. It's a tricky one. Sally is a subject. Okay, Sally will help. So with your housework is direct object and you is the indirect object here. Still? Okay, now let's move forward with the PPT. Let's quickly finish this topic in another 5 minutes. Verbs. So there are different types of verbs that we use in a sentence that we need to know about. Now, finite verbs are the verbs that changes according to the name and the tenses. So the verbs that you change according to the number, like is and are. So is used with the singular subject and are is used with the plural subject. Do and does. Now, does is used with the singular subject and do is used with the plural subject. Has and have. Has is used with singular and have is used with plural, and eat, eats, the words that changes according to the number of the subject. Now, eat, eats. Eats is used with singular, eat is used with plural. Right? So words that changes its form is called finite. The words that do not change its form are called non-finite. Right? And they generally take it as a noun. And the words like to dance, to run, to swim, these are all, like, for example, if I say, I like to swim. Now, swim is a verb, right? But because I've added to in place of it, it becomes, it is kind of used as a noun in a sentence. I like to swim. Auxiliary verbs. Now, auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. Is, am, are, has, have, and had. Okay? The words that are used with the main verbs. Modals. Modals is a type of auxiliary helping verb that is used to express ability, possibility, permission, or obligations. Now, words that are used as auxiliary and that actually expresses the possibility or permission or obligation of something, which is can, may, would, will, and would. Clear? Transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Transiting verbs are the verbs that need an object to complete its meaning. Intransitive verbs are those that does not need anything to complete its meaning. It just explains everything in itself. Now, you can look at these examples and you can just solve so that you know what it means. First, let's do the finite and infinite. The verb that changes its form is called finite. The word that does not change its form irrespective of the number is called non-finite. Like Nancy does her homework every day. Now, is this finite or non-finite? Nancy is doing her homework at the moment. So does is a finite verb, and Nancy is doing her homework is the non-finite, right? Because doing does not change its form, irrespective of singular or plural. They are writing a letter. R is the finite. It is healthy to laugh at problem is non-finite. Finding the gates widely open is non-finite, and he had his car cleaned is again non-finite. It does not change its form according to the number of the, sorry, it's non-finite, yeah. It does not change its form. Okay, now there are few words that needs object to complete its meaning, and there are few objects that does not need any meaning to complete the meaning. She was crying all day long. Now, was crying. Now, was crying, what does that mean? She was crying. Now, this is a transitive verb because it does not need any more explanation. It's just self-explanatory and they don't need the anything else, intransitive, right? We showed her the photo album. This is transitive because we showed. That is not complete. That needs an object to complete the meaning. That is transitive. It was raining at that time. This is again intransitive verb because it does not need anything else. You add it, well and good, but if you don't add it, it doesn't need it. They slept in the street. Now, they slept in itself is intransitive. They don't need it doesn't need any more explanation. She gave a cookie to the child. Now, gave is basically in a transitive verb because it needs something else to complete the meaning. Yeah, I'm so sorry. There was some internet issue. So, yeah, I was explaining about the sentence types that we divided and we classified into two parts, which is based on structure and based on the function. Now, structure, as you know, the word is self explanatory. So, how we construct our sentences, okay? We according to which we classify the sentences. Okay, so we have complex sentences, we have compound sentences, we have complex compound sentences. So how we can make different structures of sentences? This basically tells you that how you can make different types of sentence structures according to your need, while you frame your email, while you're writing your reports, while you're doing any kind of writing skill, right? The other is a function. So sentences and their function. So what kind of a sentence does what, right? In in what situation or in what way, which way we are supposed to use certain types of sentences. So we'll just pick one by one. I'm just trying to, oh, one second. I'll start speaking. In the meantime, I'll share the PPT as well. Now, structure and function. So structure, we'll start with the function first. There are basically four types of sentences, which is declarative, imperative, interrogative, and exclamatory sentences. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. Now look at these sentences and tell me what each sentence tells you about. Like in first one, which says, I like to ride a bicycle. But you understand? Do you like ride bicycle? Don't ride the bicycle too fast. What a beautiful bicycle. Now read all the four sentences and tell me how are they different from each other. Oh, so if you look at the first sentence, it is actually telling you something. It is just like, declaring something or expressing just, what you like. It's a simple sentence. Second one is clearly questioning. Do you like to ride a bicycle? It's a question mark. If you observe, there is a question mark in the end. It's a question. Don't ride the bicycle too fast. Now, if you see, this one starts with a verb, right? And it is kind of giving a command to somebody. And next is what a beautiful bicycle. It is expressing your liking towards something, strong liking towards something, right? And this one ends with a exclamatory mark. Right. So this, now you understand what is a function, like how sentences can differ from each other in terms of their functionality, right? There is a sentence that simply makes a statement or an opinion or a view. It is not doing anything else. It just simply makes an opinion. It ends with a full stop and it can be positive or negative. Declarative sentences are sentences which are simple. Now, imperative sentences are those sentences that express order, command, advice, request, proposal, suggestion, and can end with a full stop or exclamation mark. It could be anything. If you are basically giving somebody command and you're very angry, it could be it could end with an exclamatory mark to basically explain about the intensity of the situation, right? So you give advice, you request. These kind of sentences are called imperative. Interrogative sentences. Now, in interrogative sentences, you ask a question, it ends with a question mark, usually starts with a question word, and it follows with a word. Now, you're basically asking a question and it ends with a question mark. This is very easy, right? Exclamatory sentences are those sentences that express very strong feeling and ends with an exclamation mark. I hope this was easy. There is nothing much in it. Quickly look at all the sentences and tell me which is a declarative, which is imperative, which is exclamatory, and which is interrogative. Quick. Will you wait here for me? This is an interrogative sentence because it's ending with a question mark, correct? I think it's not simple sentence, it's a declarative sentence. Simple sentence is something else. We'll do it in structure. Then come, please leave your footwear outside. It's a request. So this becomes an imperative sentence. I'm so excited. This is exclamatory sentence. It is explaining us about the excitement, and it's ending with an exclamatory sentence. Where have you been all this while? This is a question and it ends with a question mark. This is an interrogative sentence. We will not tolerate this. Right? Now, this is tricky. What do you think? This is declarative or imperative? We will not tolerate this. I feel this is an opinion and this is expressing somebody's view. So this is declarative. My sister lives in Mexico is declarative again. To be a bit more careful, it is a suggestion or advice. So this is imperative. The ball rolled over into the goal. This is declarative. I don't believe that you said that. This is imperative, exclamatory, right? Okay, how many of them got all correct? Okay, now this is types of sentences based on structures. Having knowledge about framing of sentences and knowledge about sentence structures is very important. Because half of the people, they don't know how to make sentences and how to frame sentences. If you do not know how to make effective sentences while speaking or while writing, how will you express your views or your opinion on whatever you want to say? You need to know where to put full stop, where to use question mark, where to use exclamation mark, where to put comma, and all sorts of punctuation marks, right? So this one says contains subject and verb, expresses single complete thought, right? This is simple sentences. This has one thought. It has subject, it has verb, and done. Compound sentence. Now, compound sentences has, you know the meaning of compound when we mix two things. So compound sentences has the basically two independent clauses that are joined by using any conjunction. They spoke to him in Spanish, but he responded in English, right? We'll take it slow. We'll go one by one. Okay. Simple sentence and compound. A compound is very easy. It has two independent clauses, right? Which are joined by conjunctions. You know what conjunctions are? For, and, or, but, yet, etc. Right? I want you to give me one example each of simple and compound sentence. Okay, quickly give me, because I don't want to teach you all four and then you guys get confused. Perfect. Quickly give me one example of simple sentence and one of compound sentence. Okay, simple is good. Compound. That's good, Shweta. It was raining and I was reading a book. Very good. I eat food, but I don't like it. Very good. The robber tried to escape, but the police caught him. Very good. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the complex. Now, complex means when you have one independent clause and that has one or more dependent clauses joined by subordinators as, because, since, after, although, when, and a relative pronoun who, that, which. Okay, so complex sentence has one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. Okay, a dependent clause joined by one or more dependent clauses. Now it is joined. After eating the lunch, the chief. After eating lunch at the cheesecake factory, Tim went to the gym to exercise. Okay, so now this one has one independent clause and one dependent clause. You can have one or you can have more than one. Okay, now quickly give me an example of complex sentence. The boy ran away when he saw the. I want to eat something because I was hungry. No. Okay. Trisha, very good. I read the book which my friend suggested me. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the last, which is the compound complex sentences. So basically, this has two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Now, compound complex is basically the mix of compound and complex, wherein you have one independent clause and you have at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. The man believed in the system and he knew that the justice would prevail after the murderer was sent to jail. Now, the two independent clauses are the man believed in the jail. He knew that justice would prevail after the murderer was sent to jail. Is the dependent clause. Are we clear, everyone? Any problem so far? Okay, tell me if there's any problem. And we'll just proceed towards the last exercise. Okay. All right, great. Let's look at the last exercise and then we're done for the class today. And rest we will be taking it on the Wednesday. Okay, you have to tell me if this is a simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, or compound complex. Okay, so the first one is the complex. The student wiped the whiteboard that was filled with last week's notes. So this one has one independent clause and one dependent clause. The student wiped the whiteboard is the independent clause. That was filled with last week's notes is the dependent clause. Wicked Regina cast a spell on the entire city, so the citizens decided to rebel. This is again the complex. While waiting for the paint to dry, Angela went to Home Depot. Martin organized the kitchen appliances. This one is the complex compound because this has two independent clauses and one dependent. After the teacher chose groups, John and Sarah were selected as partners for the project. Yet Sarah did most of the work. I think this is again compound complex. The woman who taught economics was fired for stealing school supplies. This is simple. After the two soccer players lost their game, they joined with other teammates for lunch. They went to the movies. Compound complex. The shoplifters has stolen, so he ran once he saw the police. Complex. Mega Rohit ate too much and felt sick. Simple sentence. So are we clear about the sentence structures based on functional and the structure? In case there's any problem, you can ask me now. Otherwise, you can leave a comment about how was the class, if all the concepts were clear to you or not. And I believe that you're supposed to fill up a feedback form also after the class. Please make sure that you do that. Trisha, I'll do that, but it's just basic exercises. I'll do that. I'll upload it. Anything else? Any questions, any problems, any queries? Transitive and intransitive verb. Transitive verbs don't need any object. Transitive verbs need objects to complete the sentence. Intransitive don't. The baby sleeps. Now this is transitive, intransitive, because it doesn't need any object. He showed. This is the transitive verb because it needs any object to complete the meaning. That's the only difference. All right. So I'll see you on Wednesday now, and we continue this chapter. And next 2 classes will be very, very important. So make sure that you attend it because I will be teaching a topic that you get questions from in the exams. All right. Thank you. Have a good time. Nikita will discuss this in the next class again. Don't worry. And you can just go through whatever we have studied today so that you can come up with doubts and that you can clear in the next class. All right, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good day.